Hello,
Yeah,
thank you.
Hello.
I'm Shweta Srivastava. We welcome you, ma'am, to Amity webinar.
Hi.
Hello, Shweta ma'am. Good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I once again, on behalf of the entire Amity University, welcome each one of you to this informative webinar, specially conducted by the inspiration and guidance of our Group Vice Chancellor, Dr. Gurinder Singh Sir. The topic for today is digitalization, a disruptor or an enabler. I take the honor to welcome our eminent industry mentors and captain. Please welcome Mr. Feroz Khan, Partner and Head, Digital and Emerging Technologies, KPMG India. We are proud to welcome Mr. Sandeep Goel, Marketing Head India and South Africa Enterprise Commercial and Partner Ecosystem, IBM, and also to Ms. Shweta Srivastava, Head of Digital Philips. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's panel, we have Dr. Seema Sahai, HOD IT, Gaurav Bhatnagar, Anuj, and none other than our Group Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Gurinder Singh Sir, who is one of our person who is an inspiration, and his expertise in international business and technology is something which admires us all. As you all know, digital technologies are fundamentally changing and transforming the status quo of every industry. It is unleashing what is being called the fourth industrial revolution. The strength of digital technologies, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud doesn't lie just in technology's individual, but it has brought a drastic change in the global economy. Instead, it stems from how companies integrate them to transform their businesses and how they work. Today, we have been joined by eminent industry captains, and one by one, I will invite them. Our first speaker is Mr. Feroz Khan, Partner and Head, Digital and Emerging Technologies, KPMG. I will quickly take you to his profile and then I will hand over the session to our Group Vice Chancellor, sir, for his word of wisdom. Mr. Feroz Khan, Partner Head Digital and Emerging Technologies at KPMG India, has over 22 years of experience in diverting digital transformation, enterprise solution, technology, architect, IT infrastructure, and businesses processes transformation for various Fortune 500 companies. He has strong enterprise in creating IT strategic vision, creating IT, AOP and strategic roadmap for various companies which focuses on generating new revenue streams through technology and digital intervention along with defining governance and control management. His leadership has defined large-scale progress in business transformation and areas of sales, marketing, HR, finance, operations, supply chain, and talent management. A pioneer, a transformation in the IT industry. He has brought digital transformation, experience in implementing next generation IT infrastructure and security transformation with robust IT security, data leakage prevention programs, data privacy, business contingency plan, and is one of a name to be known in the IT sector. It is an honor to have him today here, and now I would request Group Vice Chancellor to kindly speak from his part and welcome the guest. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Professor Thaflial, and it's such a great privilege to welcome the industry captains, Mr. Feroz Khan, Ms. Srivastava, and Mr. Sandeep Goel. This is the most powerful platform where we call the industry captains from across the globe that they should come and they should be able to speak to our students, to our faculty, and to the senior academic leaders. From the bottom of heart, we are thankful to you that you took time out of your busy schedule. And they often say that this is the biggest social service you are doing to the country by interacting with the students. Because when you talk to the young minds, you are able to give them the new dimensions, how you think that the future will look like. Just a few minutes back, we were talking to an Australian university and with their vice chancellor and with their provost and with their top team, and we were looking at that what are the options which are available to the students now. So I think that one thing which is good, which has happened in the last 4 months is that the world has understood that the new models will emerge out. And these new models will not only emerge out, they will emerge out to give best to the whole world. So I think this is a time when we should be able to deliberate that what we need to concentrate on if we actually need to see that how IT is going to change the whole world and how the academic world is going to change. Today, when we see the business in the financial markets and in the financial business, I was just reading in the morning, 92% of the business is being done online. So gone are the days when people used to go to the bank. They are reducing their size and people are doing almost every transaction online. You look at travel and tourism business, you look at hotel business, you look at manufacturing, you look at trading, you look at economic activities. I think all activities around the globe, they are based and they are being done on mobile today. And if that is the case, the future universities, which we see next 5 years, will be the universities which will be working on mobile, which will be working only on computer. And if that is the case, we need to see that our students are very well prepared. Most of the decisions which will be taken will be based on data. In the morning when we were having this webinar, I think that earlier we used to give presentations. This time, most of the people who were looking at that how they should be addressing the students, they were based on the questions. They would like to throw questions to the students, and based on the opinion poll only, they will be able to come at the conclusion. And Gaurav was one of our stalwarts who was helping us to create those questions. So I think that time has changed from the university to business, to services sector, to decision-making science. I think that everything has to be looked from the point of view of IT and IT-enabled services. And if that is the case, I think that our students need to be well prepared. We need to see that how we should prepare them for the industry. We should see that how they will be able to integrate themselves well with the requirements of the industry. And that is the reason that we have changed at MIT the entire curriculum. So rather than keeping it as a supply based, what we want to teach, we have kept as a demand based. So we want to understand from you, Mr. Feroz Khan, Ms. Srivastava, and Mr. Goyal, that what should we teach? So maybe that during your interaction with the students, you can highlight few things which you, through your industry experience, feel that should be the part of the curriculum where the student should concentrate on. But thank you so very much for coming and speaking to the students on behalf of our founder, on behalf of our chancellor, on behalf of our all vice presidents, deans, very dedicated faculty members, and our wonderful students who are not giving up, who still they keep on writing projects, who keep on asking questions to the faculty, and who are our strength. Once again, thank you, and over to you.
Professor Singh, thanks a lot, Professor Thapliyal and all MIT members. In fact, it's a pleasure to be, speaking to you people and speaking to MIT students. And in fact, this is not the first time I'm speaking to MIT. I have personally been there in, Noida campus and have taken a couple of sessions, even for faculties and students. So pleasure to be associated with MIT. And as, Professor Singh was telling this thing that what is it which the student should learn in terms of more exponential? So next 5 years, what is the change which is going to come? And when we talk about digital is the ocean. There are so many things which comes under this. So what is it which we learn from this? And let me, make it more simple in terms of, let me share a practitioner's view that what is it which I feel, industry is moving towards, and what is it which people should adopt in terms of the digital. Now, if I see this topic, which is primarily digitalization, a disruptor or enabler, it's a very interesting topic. If you see this word digitalization, it's a very unique word. And here I just want to caution that let's not mix this word with digitization, because digitalization and digitization are two different meanings. And here the stress is this: what should we do in terms of digitalizing it, whether it's an enabler or whether it's a disruptors or the growth potentials. Now this has two angles. One angle is the operating model. Operating model is primarily what is the impact does it brings in the way which we work? And second is the business angle. So what is it which digitalization is going to do in terms of the business growth? So specifically when we say operating model, there I truly feel like this is primarily an enabler. So when it comes to operating model, the ways of working, really digitalization is enabling us. It's enabling each and every human being. It's enabling the, the ways of working. And then when it comes to the business perspective, it really becomes a disruptor. Why? Because when you talk about growth, when you talk about EBITDA, you will see that this is a place wherein disruption happens. So both the angle of it. And let me cover both of it. So let me talk about the operating model also. At the same time, let me talk about the business perspective also. Now, truly giving a consulting lens, because I come from a consulting background. And truly, if I give a consulting lens so that students can correlate with that, my point of view is this, that definitely there's a, there's something which is happening across the world, which is forcing organization, which is forcing people, which is forcing, each and everyone in the organization to think differently. And if we say think differently, this is not only for individual, this is for individual and business all. And there are various trends which plays a role in this. And to name some of the trends, if I have to, just talk about or share some perspective in terms of those trends, which is reshaping or reimagining the world or the operating model, think about the impact which globalization is bringing. When I say globalization, it's just like we all are working like in a one giant city, no matter what language we speak, no matter what, currency we transact, no matter where do we live. What it matters is this: do we have the talent to really do that work? And that's what the new operating model is. So we need to really learn that what all are those prerequisites or the digital enablers which will make you do the things irrespective where do you stay, which language you speak, which currency you transact, whatever. What matters is this: do you have the ability to perform that task? That's primarily one of the biggest trend which I see is reshaping the digitalization. The second thing which I'll say is the mobility. Okay. When I say mobility, it's primarily like, it's just like anytime, anywhere working. Okay. Again, when we talk about a work, it can happen anytime, it can happen anywhere. So it's just like a trend, but trend wise, if you see, it's just like now no more we go for a work. We instead carry our work with ourselves. The so-called iPads and the iPhones and all, everyone keeps on working, wherever you go. So it's no more like you are going for an office, instead you are carrying your work with them. And then specifically, if I talk about the consulting lens, in consulting lens, we really don't go to office. What we do is this: yes, the problem what we have to sort, we factor in those things which can happen from anywhere. So that's mobilization is one of the great enabler which reshaping the world in terms of the digitalization. Now, third aspect, if I have to share, that's the millennial thinking. Okay. Now see the population of millennial. There are stats which tells that by end of year 2020, there would be close to 50% of our workforce globally, which would be millennials. And then this will grow to 75%, by the end of 2025. So see the growth which this thinking is, bringing together. And here, what I want to say is this, that these millennials have a different thought process. They think differently. And we need to enable them through digital means to think differently, to innovate differently. That's very important. So here, coming from a millennial, thinking, we need to think that how do we really enable this generation through digitalization? That's another trend. Now, the next trend which I can talk about is the behavior, the new behavior. See the way we interact and the way we collaborate or the way we work. Today, if you see, most of us would like to share our views on Facebook. We write blogs to share our, ideas. We share our professional affiliation on LinkedIn. We do so much of a social networking in terms of sharing information. Now, this is a new behavior. That means, be it an organization, be it a student life, be it an institution, do we have that digital levers which can enable this new behavioral thinking, which means that how to collaborate, how to work, how to communicate, everything is different. So that's a, another lever, which comes as a part of the operating model. Technology, which is very important. And here I would like to stress upon this word. Sorry. So when I say technology, there are so many emerging technologies which are really reshaping the world in terms of the operating model. So the likes of the big data platform, Internet of Things, wearables, cloud computing, all of this, if you see, contribute to a different ways of working and contribute to a lever of, the emerging technology or the digitalization era. So technology also plays a great role. Now, all of these things, all of the trends which I'm talking about is definitely playing a role in terms of digitalizing it. Now, this is what I say that, yes, it is acting as an enabler to define the operating model. Now, if I take a lens of the business perspective, let's take a lens of the business perspective. And why, categorically, I mentioned this thing that business side, it's more of a disruptor. Why? Because you talk about any business, any industry vertical, there's a starting challenge. And the starting challenge can be business, either business want to growth prospects. We want to, how do we grow our revenue? How do we increase our EBITDA? That's one of the starting challenge. The starting challenge can be customers. So how do we onboard more customers? How do we get onto a model of personalization? How do we get onto a model of loyalties? So these are another starting challenge, for the customers. There can be a starting challenge which are related to productivity. My cost is very high. Cost is going under roof. How do I control the cost? How do I increase my operating margin? That's another starting challenge. There can be starting challenge related to the people, like the operating model. How do we work? Do we have the talent? Do we have the skill set? Do we have the COE to support the work? So all of this are the different type of starting challenge for any organization you talk about. That can be bank, that can be healthcare, that can be consumers, that can be public sector, any organization you talk about, there would be a starting challenge. Now, how do we really use digitalization as a lever to solve these starting challenges? That's the important point. And here, if I have to share my views, I'll say that when it comes to levers of digitalization or the digital levers, there are levers like innovation. Can we think about innovation? Can we think about disrupting the business? So if we come with a very innovative idea, if we come with a disruptive idea, yes, these are the digital levers which can really help. There can be levers related to technology. So can we think about a digital technology or an emerging technology which can sit on top of my legacy architecture, which can help support the digital ambitions? There can we think about the data. So the power of data. How do we really analyze the data to make sure that we go more and more in terms of a predictive, data analytics? There can be things related to, operating model. So can we use the concept of the agile DevOps and different methodologies or a iterative working, which brings in a different perspective in terms of the growth. So no matter whatever starting challenge we talk about, yes, there's a digital lever which can solve the problem. Now, if I give you some stats, there was a survey which was done by MIT, which clearly tells that if we talk about Fortune top 500 companies, there are 26% of the organizations globally which are truly a digital evangelist. That means they understood what is important for digital and they have taken corrective measure in terms of usage. There are 49% of the clients who have either understood the importance or have really started in the initial phase or really, not gone beyond, but at least they have some aspiration to go and adopt digital levers. But then there are 24% approximately, companies who are the true laggards. They have neither understood the importance of digital, nor they have really done it. Now, if we do the deep dive of this 24%, the likes of the 24%, what we felt like that there are different levers which are playing to this. So either they do not, understand the adoption of the data or the predictive modelings or the importance of the data, or they don't understand the importance of Industry 4.0. They don't understand the importance of transformation. There can be various reasons why this laggards are there. Now, this gives all the reason to understand. I'm talking about so many things, but what exactly is the digitalization? What exactly is the digital, transformation? So I'll say, if I have to shorten this sentence, I'll say it's not only technology. Technology is one component of it. Technology is only one factor. Rather, it's an amalgamation of couple of things. And I say that it's a mixture of experience. Like, how do you define your experience, which is, be it your employee experience, be it your partners, be it your customers, suppliers, vendors. How do you really define that experience? That's one. Second is a new business model. So how do we really define that there's a new business model which is going to come up? In fact, I was hearing, Professor Singh, he was talking about e-com and all. Yes, the data tells that at least 31% of the clients who never interacted, never transacted on e-commerce, now they have moved on to e-commerce. There are business which were traditional retail business. Now they have moved on to e-com given the COVID scenario. Telemedicines, doctors, they never used to do e-com related stuff. Now they have moved on to a digital channel. Schools, colleges, the likes of MET, now the e-learnings, the digital learning, which never used to be earlier. So that means there's a new redefinition of the business model which is going to come. That's also one of the important digital lever. The third is the new ways of working. Can we think about a different ways of working? Because generally what happens is this, we always talk about a very traditional ways of working. Can we think about iterative ways of working, which means that how do we really disrupt the thinking? So that's another, important thing. Then there are things like emerging technologies. So the likes of the blockchain, 3D, AR, VR, enough emerging technologies are there in the market, which can be used as one of the levers. So, and that's how I say technology is one component. It's not only component for the digital. And last but not the least, I'll just take 1 minute time on the data side of it, which is very important. Because no matter whether we talk about experience, we talk about new business model, we talk about ways of working, we talk about technology, all of this throws tons and tons of data. Now, how do we use this data to create a meaningful insight? And then when I say meaningful insight, it's not like that we need only, a descriptive data. We need data which is predictive in modeling. So like, can we predict with the help of data that what is going to happen? And that's very important. And that's what I say, that using digital lever, which can take you to a thinking of a intelligent automation, which brings in the feature of innovation, which brings in a feature of incubation, and then you move on to commercialization. So data is important. Whatever data we have, let's make sure that this data, we use it for a purpose of cognitive, which means that we create a data model in such a way over a period of time. That means machine itself takes the control of it, and the modeling happens, the decisioning happens. So these are some of the very important aspects from the business perspective, which I felt like is important in terms of defining digitalization. And thus I say this is more disruptive, less enabler. So this is what I thought I'll share it to the students, because they will correlate this with the different emerging text which is coming in terms of the operating model, in terms of the business, and which will take them to a new era in terms of thinking when it comes to the career graph. So that's it from my side, and I'll take more questions when the time comes. So over to you, Shweta.
Dr. Mr.
Thanks.
Before I take up Ms. Shweta, let me do my viewers the viewers understand a quick bio sketch. Ms. Shweta Srivastava, Head of Digital BCD, that is Brand Communication and Digital, Philips India Subcontinent, is an evangelist and marketing professional having more than 18 years of diverse experience at various organizations in making strategies, plans, and diverse execution for achieving business goals. Currently steering the digital landscape of Philips India Subcontinent as Head of Digital and Development, the strategy and roadmap. She is responsible for defining and implementing of strategy collaboration with stakeholders globally across all verticals of business and functions, and integrating relevant touchpoints throughout the customer decision journey. Have worked with companies like Philips, DuPont, Group M, Hindustan Times, AskMe.com, IndiaMart. She has been one of a transformer in these services, and having her today in this forum is a treat to all of us. Over to you, Ms. Sweta.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for the introduction. And thanks, Feroz, for setting the context in the correct manner, saying that obviously digital, transformation or digitalization is there. But then what drives that digitalization, or what drives that digital transformation? So technology, we know, is a very important aspect in terms of what drives digital transformation or digitalization. But another very important aspect, which Feroz just touched upon, is the customer behavior or the consumer behavior. So consumer behavior probably in a B2C, customer behavior in a B2B. And why it's important? Because we may bring in innovation in technology, but if customers and consumers are not using that technology, then obviously it doesn't happen. So evolution doesn't happen. And that's why we say that digital transformation is driven very much by the consumer behavior in B2C and customer behavior in B2B. Now, with this COVID-19, the new situation which we are into, the crisis situation, you may say, and with crisis, obviously, it gives rise to a lot of opportunities. This era is a very unique era. We call it an era of digital Darwinism. Now, definition of digital Darwinism is when the technology and society evolves faster, so fast that it's difficult to adapt to that change. That is the time when it's called digital Darwinism, very similar to the Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. We call it survival of the smartest. And this is the era because the technology is moving very fast. There are new innovations which are coming. It's very important for the businesses to catch up and then probably, get their employees transformed completely, who can understand digital and who can start working with departments in the right manner which they're supposed to work. Feroz just touched upon a lot of data, that we are getting. So if we are getting data, whether there are right resources who can actually, read those data or who can drive inferences of it. So these are some examples of, why do we see that transformation is not just about technology, but it's also about, whether the consumers are evolving, and if the consumers are evolving, whether the marketers are also evolving, or whether the departments are also evolving. Now, if you talk about the B2C evolution, right? So consumers in B2C, there are 5 factors which we have seen recently. The first one is we are already talking about consumers have turned completely online, right? So schools are happening online. People are buying things online. They are online. If you talk about certain numbers, when COVID-19 arrived, within 1 week, the amount of time that a consumer was spending on social media increased by 25%, right? So that's the kind of jump that we saw in the first week of COVID, arrival. Obviously, now the landscape must have completely changed, and we are yet waiting for the numbers. So that's how the consumer behavior changes with time. The second aspect is the channel share. So before COVID, as Feroz was also mentioning, that people were buying from the retail stores, but then with this new situation, anyways, people were moving towards e-commerce sites like Amazon and Flipkart, but now they have a reason to buy online. And that's what, these online players are suddenly growing, and then they are looking at the growth. The third aspect is that while we have an Amazon and Flipkart, while companies have these platforms or e-tailers to sell, they also need to open their own stores, right? Because there'll be a lot of clutter in Amazon and Flipkart. So obviously you need to have your own D2C store, so direct to consumer store. And that's something which most of the brands are now understanding. There were brands who already had a store like this, wherein they were doing e-commerce, but the brands which didn't have it, they are coming up with this new store. So this is the third critical aspect. The fourth one is that earlier digital used to be only a marketeer's job, right? Or a part of the marketing team. But now you will see that all the departments, they want digital folks. They want digital talent, whether it's HR department, whether it's leadership team, whether it's finance department. So all the departments, they want digital talent. So that's where you see that growth, because, with the consumer evolution, technology evolution, the demand also increase, and then businesses or companies may not have any choice. They just have three choices. So either you compete and go ahead. The second is that, you wait and then you react whenever it comes. And the third is that you ignore. So the 25% which Feroz was talking about, which is 25% of the organization have still not understood the value or, the value it brings in, maybe are those who have ignored that fact. But now we'll not have time for them to, to kind of ignore it further because, you don't have an offline choice at all. So this was the fourth one. And the fifth very critical one was something around, because, as the consumers change, the demand increases. The consumers are becoming more demanding. They are, the brands are pretty approachable because on social media, they can just write a comment or complain. They can go to Amazon and write reviews. So obviously then the brands are, they need more manpower. They need more resources. They need more technology to solve those problems. Some of the problems may be basic problems. So that is where the use of technology, artificial intelligence, machine learning, or robotics comes into the scene. That with that increased demand, with that increased, traction, probably the next step would be that brands need to be smarter enough to solve all of those queries. You must have seen a very recent ad of Airtel, which is pretty unique, right? So they're talking about complaints, number of complaints. Because the complaints have increased, that the consumer is more demanding, definitely, this is how the brands are coming up with to solve them. This I talked about the B2C scenario, B2C environment where there are consumers. Even in B2B environment where there are customers or stakeholders, some of the things have changed a lot. With this transformation of digitalization, they're using more and more digital to consume content. So B2B requires a lot of content consumption and decision-making processes pretty longer. And that's where, they consume content a lot on digital. You will see a lot of webinars happening, in case of healthcare, you'll see even doctors and all, they are having webinars and sharing content there. So all of this, kind of builds it and then makes a reason of taking decision after some time. And that's why, it is very important. Influencers are created online or on digital. And that's how you see that influencers now, they're present on digital and they're talking because the consumers have changed, the customers have changed. And even when we talk about B2B, they are a set of consumers only. They are not, a business is not talking, but then there are some stakeholders within the business who are talking to people. And that's why, the influencers are created. So while we see this evolving consumer and customer behavior, as I mentioned, that the businesses have no other choices than the three choices. And the first choice, which should be the choice, is competing to go ahead. And for that, they definitely require a lot of talent, digital talent. And so what I will do is, we know that there will be a growth in terms of the profiles required for digital. There will be a growth in, the kind of departments leveraging digital. And that is where the skill set or the required skill set comes into the scene, wherein what will be the skills which will be in the demand, whether it will be only social media or it will be restricted to marketing or it will go beyond marketing. And that's probably, will be taken ahead by Sandeep, who's the next speaker. And definitely, he'll touch upon, various aspects of what are the skills that you all should be looking at it. And when we talk about digital growth or digitalization or digital transformation, what are the various skills which will be in the demand? What will be the changes which will happen in organization? So looking at this, again, reiterating, technology and society will be changing very faster. So with this fast change, definitely the businesses have to change fast and they have to hire better people and skills to make sure that they change gradually. So over to you, Sandeep.
Yeah. Thank you, Shweta. And very well said that Darwinism is not only the part, the Darwinism for the most intelligent species today of this millennial generation is most important to handle. And now the time has come to invite our next eminent speaker. Before I invite him formally, let me quickly take you to his bio sketch. Mr. Sandeep Goel, Marketing Head Enterprise and Commercial Client Segment and Partner Ecosystem IBM India and South Asia, is a veteran in the field of international business and is in the technology. He's an engineer and business management graduate and has a rich experience of traveling. That's why I said international business. And he is also a pioneer professionalist, having 23 years of experience in business, IT consulting, marketing strategy, execution, analytics, program management, and in creating center of excellence in various organizations. Mr. Sandeep currently leads enterprise and commercial marketing and partner ecosystem marketing for IBM, in which his role is perfect intersection of marketing, technology, and leadership across online and offline channels. He is responsible for aligning marketing strategy and execution in line with market priorities and help drive consistent, sustainable, profitable growth for IBM in the region. In his past role, he has worked as global marketing analytics discipline at IBM and is a transformer in his own expertise. We would like more to listen from his rich experience. Over to you, Mr. Sandeep.
Thank you, Professor Thapliyal. And also, thank you, Shweta and Firoz, for sharing your views. Sharing my perspective, what I've learned over the course of this 23 years of corporate experience, spanning across multiple technology domains as a consultant or implementer or marketer, I've seen this digitalization evolving from the era of ERP to today's intelligent systems and cloud. And in future, I'm sure all organizations, they are going to be AI enabled. To me, digitalization, or I call it digital transformation, it was always looked as a disruptor, especially before the current pandemic era. And now it is considered as an enabler. In fact, the pace of this transformation has in fact accelerated. The business models, as Feroz rightly said, they have been evolving, they have evolved. And I see that they've been blurring the boundaries between the various industries. For example, how the payment systems, the credit card or the online payment, they're integrated with the other industry verticals like retail or e-commerce or any shopping portal you talk about. Look at how the media industry converging with the telecom industry with flourishing on streaming businesses like Netflix, Prime Video, Hotstar, etc. So digitalization, in fact, started with back office process automation to really just bring efficiencies to get the job done faster, to save time, to save cost. But now it is more about customer experience. In fact, it has always been about customer experience, but the definition now has further evolved. And it is not just like online experience, but really bringing that safety, security, and convenience for our customers in physical realms of life. For example, multiple connected devices in a smart homes, we can control them by multiple devices, including our mobile. Or take the example of connected cars, like you've seen in Maruti, you've seen in Honda, which are now offering multiple features by using multiple technologies, leveraging IoT devices. So behind all these services, there are multiple IT systems, and data is the oil which integrates them. So Firoz spoke about the data stuff, and I would say, we still need to unlock the value of data. The journey has just begun, and a lot more value is yet to come. For example, an average factory, it generates about 1 terabyte of data daily. But it's only 1% of this plant data is acted upon. So at IBM, we talk about data as a new natural resource. And we all understand the future is not about competition, but cooperation, where multiple ecosystem players, they come together and they work on an open architecture or platform to deliver more and more value to the customers by leveraging this important resource, that is data. Recently, I read an article in The Economist, that one of the most obvious consequences of the current pandemic, this is going to be infusion of data-enabled services into ever more aspects of life, and the digital transformation to be an even bigger imperative for organization in the short-term future. So it is no longer a disruptor or enabler. I feel it has become a necessity for organizations to remain viable. So by now, you all must be thinking the future world is all about technology. And though Firoz has mentioned about multiple areas, but let me just share with you what I think is digital transformation, more than technology, is all about people. We can pretty much buy any technology, but our ability to adapt to even more digital depends on developing the next generation of skills and the future-proofing ourselves and others' potential. So since the future is more ambivalent and uncertain than ever, I think we need to focus on skilling ourselves so that we are all better equipped to adjust to the change. So let me just share 3 areas to keep in mind and act upon. The first area being taking actions on the data insights. The powerful advances in AI are very exciting, Yet, they are not sufficient for future-proofing of organizations. While a big competitive advantage is to harness valuable data and having the necessary skills to translate data into meaningful insights, the key differentiator above all is being able to act on those insights. So data without insights are trivial, and insights without action, they are pointless. Let me share an example of what I mean by that. Talking about the use of AI that's in cancer treatment, where IBM deployed its Watson-based solution at a cancer hospital in US. So IBM Watson for Oncology solution, it has all the information from relevant guidelines, best practices, medical journals, textbooks, whatever you can think of. And it then accesses the information from a patient's medical record and applies AI algorithm to display the potential cancer treatment options ranked by the level of confidence. Now, it is the turn of the oncologist who then applies his own expertise to identify the most appropriate treatment option. So it is not the machine taking the decision, but helping the doctor to really take informed decision by providing all possible options in expedited manner, which otherwise might not have been like humanly possible. And reading so many journals, so much of literature, or keeping all those in mind may not be possible for one doctor. So that's why like an AI is also called as augmented intelligence and not just artificial intelligence. So technology is always about doing more with less. Yet that combination is effective only if we pair the technology with the right human skills. It's really quite simple. Now, the most brilliant innovation is irrelevant if we are not skilled enough to use it. And even the most impressive human minds will become less useful if they don't team up with the technology. So look at the examples of how the traffic police uses information from all the various CCTV cameras installed across the Delhi NCR, or how the drones were used during the first phase of lockdown for surveillance in containment zones. On the other hand, like drones are now used for pizza delivery in US. So those are the multiple uses people that think about and how they leverage technology. That brings me to the second area, like the second focus area being they're really talking about or thinking about the soft skills and not just the hard skills. So in today's organization, driving that culture of data-driven decision making and becoming more and more digital, a lot of investment is already done towards reskilling and upskilling of its employees. The major and quick success, it has come from people who are more adaptable, curious, and flexible in the first place. For example, in my marketing team, I observed that few people were fast enough to pivot around the market realities, basing the marketing campaign results on a real-time basis, and coming out with new tactics instead of weekly or monthly adjustments earlier. So when a technology gets invented, it is the creativity of human beings to apply them in various use cases and bring that meaningful impact. For example, we can have multiple use cases on uses of mobile phones. The devices, using them as a contactless payment mechanism or a room key at a hotel. Similarly, like facial recognition technology used for security purposes by the police or secure check-in the hotel, or the corporates, they want to use that for the employee entry into the premises. So net, nobody knows that the key long-term future hard skills will be the best action right now is to combine with the dual focus on potential for soft skills and knowledge for hard skills. Nowadays, recruiters select people with high learnability, the people with a hungry mind, and they match these interests to the in-demand skills. So they understand that those hard skills, they may soon become outdated, but the key is their curiosity remains intact. So technical competence is temporary, but the intellectual curiosity must be a permanent. That brings me to the third area. It's like learning from both failures and successes. We are all living in an agile world today, which is like people-led and technology supported. Most of us, we adapted the new ways of working as Feroz spoke about during the current situation. For example, like in my organization, I see like 95% of the employees, they're working from home. So we have been used to this culture of working from home, but I think that's a lot more people, they got used to the process, and so many other people in other organizations. At my home front, I saw my kids, like, one in college and one in my senior school, getting on virtual learning mode, which started with the recorded sessions first and then moved on to online live classes. I hear similar experiences from my colleagues about their young children getting on virtual classes. I'm really amazed how the entire education system has ramped up into e-learning by leveraging these technologies. And it's not that the technologies were not available earlier. They have been available for quite some time, but I think we demonstrated the soft skills needed to navigate this historic crisis. And I think it is going to evolve into a hybrid model post-pandemic. Another important observation I see is like most of us, we struggle in the beginning but the way we adapted to this rapidly disrupted environment by learning from our failures as well as from others. So I would say, like, please don't be scared of taking risk, experimenting, and it is absolutely fine to fail as long as you pick up the learning and course correct your strategy. So I feel in today's world, human beings are the common denominator to the concept of future proofing. And let me share one more secret from my experience. If you want to be successful and future proof yourself while working on these areas, please feel free to get yourself a lot of mentors to guide and encourage you. They are the people who can get you to do the course correction, give you new ideas, and give you the right feedback which is necessary to course correct or to really think about new options. So with this, I hand over back, and I think we can open the forum for Q&A.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep. Now we are moving to the question and answer session.
Okay, I'll take this. I may take the first question for our panelist.
Please go.
You very rightly mentioned digitalization, and I think digitalization couldn't be more pertinent in these pandemic so-called era, if I may say. But do you feel that this digitalization is short-lived because many organizations have invested hugely on the brick and mortar and physical centers? Do you think that the digitalization has finally found a road, or do you think that we are just going to come back to normal mode of normal mode of education, normal mode of disseminating content once the pandemic ends?
Okay, so let me take this question. This is an interesting question, and again, bringing a practitioner's view, basis my experience, I'll not say this is short-lived, because generally what happens is this. I stress upon one point, that digitalization is all about experience. Now, this experience can be any type of experience. It can be as an employee you are experiencing, or as a customer you are experiencing, or whatever. So this is not going to be short-lived. Why? Because slowly the experience is changing. The personas are changing. See, there's a study. There's something called as ethnography. Now, if you do ethnography is primarily a research which tells the behavior of a human being. So it tells that how is it different personas behave in what way, and which can be different for a different people. So a youngster versus a older people, the behavior would be different. A male versus female, the behavior would be different. So we create different personas. And that's what I say, that these personas are changing, the experience are changing. And so as the companies and so as the products, they are also emerging in that way. So I don't think so this is going to go back. Instead, I'll say everything would be built on top of that. So, of course, this is new normal, but then this new normal, it's not like this is going to go as soon as things becomes normal, because things would be built on top of that. So whatever infrastructure or whatever technologies we are building, all those things will be built on top of that, and this will get improved and sharpened. And that's the reason we call this more as an exponential technology, which will, get sharpened by next 4 to 5 years time.
So let me just add to the little bit to that one, what Feroz said. I completely agree with Feroz. I think there is going to be a hybrid model. It's not that we are going back on that model as well. There was a survey done in the space of retail, for example, like, retail technologies, which are like, experienced by most of us on a regular basis. And, in the survey, it revealed that 87% of customers would likely choose stores with contactless or self-checkout option. They do not say that they're not going to stores. They would go to stores. But the operating model at the store will change. In addition to that, it's going to be a combination of physical and digital. And when we look at that one, like 60% of the consumers also said they would choose stores with AR over those without it. What does that mean? Like, everybody wants to experience that the virtual reality using the AR kind of technology to experience what they will look like in a specific dress. You got the AR mirrors coming up. So those new technologies will give you the various options. So this will look best on you. How do you use AI technology to choose your, matching your dresses, with the occasion? What has happened in the past, like, using that AI to see what kind of a fabric will be good for you. So we've seen some cases where the complete digital stores, digital platform, they're going for the brick and mortar, but brick and mortar launching their own online channels also. So it's going to be amalgamation, all really looking at giving that experience to the customer. That will happen. So I don't see like any one channel will rule over the other channel. It's going to be multiple omni-channel strategies what people have to adopt, all the businesses have to adopt to give that unique experience, personalized experience to its customers.
Thank you. I think couldn't agree more. Hybrid would be the way to go because there's a lot of human connect that is also there. So digitalization or digitization of products and services could not take over the entire gambit, but there's still room for the hybrid learning or hybrid products and services. I'll just take up one more question and then I'll hand it over to the other panelists. A lot of things are going digital, whether it be content, whether it be meetings, as we are. With this comes the threat of data. And there's a lot of questions which we have not heard of, which is coming up now: data security, data theft. At one point of time, we say that we want to move towards digitization, and then we are not sure how our data is being used by the countries, by the app developers, by big organizations. So I would request the panelist view on that. Digitization is the road, but at the same time, should we be fearing this new data theft aspect as well?
So anyone want to take?
Yeah. So
yeah.
yes. So great. I think this is my favorite subject always, because we all talk about data and digital, but then there comes the data privacy. I guess, the bigger responsible brands are already working towards it. The associations are already working. The more and more data is coming to brands and to companies, the more responsibility actually comes up. And that is probably one of the reasons that why suddenly GDPR rule became so strong in the European region. Probably, you saw the previous days, announcement in India on, looking at certain apps, and even, certain apps which are already being in use, whether to use it or not, because the privacy guidelines were not very clean, or maybe, they were not very transparent. So with this, obviously the responsibility goes high. A lot of brands are already, even though they have the data, they are yet not using the data. And IBM and obviously, my company Philips, we do follow that. We may be having a lot of data, but we are not allowed to use all of that data unless until the proper consent is there, or unless until the proper consent on what are the fields that we'll be using, whether these fields have any kind of personally identifiable details, or it's something that is, that is pretty safe to be used. So I think all of these things are coming up, and data, privacy is being taken up very strictly, not just by governments outside India, but even within India. We have seen the recent announcement, even, on Facebook, where a lot of other countries are actually banning certain aspect or certain inventory of Facebook. So all of these things are happening, and I'm sure that with more and more visibility and more data coming up, the companies, organizations will be more and more stringent and responsible.
Thank you, Ms. Shweta. Now I would like to hand over the session to Dr. Seema Sahar.
Yeah, we all spoke about data and how important it is. And now seeing the current situation between India and China, we say data makes a country powerful. And therefore, we have banned many apps which have been developed by China. But I have a question that says that just adapting technology in an organization, will it make it succeed, and or is it related to the strategy of the organization also? And if it is so, then the same technology that is being used by a competitor organization will probably not help another organization with a different strategy. Secondly, in India, we have many small-scale industries. How will these industries react to technology, or disruptive technology as such? Because will it help them succeed and prosper too, as it will to the other organization? So I leave it to the panelists if you can shed some light on
Let
this.
me take this question. See, my view again, coming as a practitioner, no one does digital just for the heck of doing like competition is doing. They do digital for enabling their business because, you know, it comes with a cost, and not only cost, it comes with its own challenges and disruption. And the biggest challenge is the change management, that how do you really enable that change, because it's a holistic change which comes in. So no one does just that my peer is doing, so I'm also doing. No, I mean, there's an enablement piece that's pretty much important in this. Now, the other thing which you brought in, like the small and medium, companies, how will they? If I give you some stats of India, so specifically MSME, if I give you some stats, so in India there are close to 63 million MSME, out of which it employs close to 120 million people in India. Now think about the employment generation which this MSME does, and think about the contribution to GDP. It gives you 40% manufacturing output growth to India's GDP. So it has a huge potential. Now coming on to whether they will adopt the digitalization or not. So I'll say that they are in the very early stage of adoption. So when I say early stage of adoption, why? Because generally the quantum of business, what they do somewhere from 1 crore to 100 crore sort of in business. So getting onto a technology, and that to emerging technology, is not so easy for them. And then there has to be a value which needs to come from that. So what I have seen is this: there are many companies and products and platform now which they are designing the products in such a way that these MSMEs can also use. So like the likes of, if I talk about, maybe they will not be able to afford the big ERPs of the world like SAPs and Oracle, but then there are small SaaS based product which is equally digital in nature. They have come in, and these MSMEs are adopting to those things. So similarly, there are many small, so small mobile apps. If you talk about, if suppose they need to do a secondary sales enablement, or they need to do a, let's say, go to market strategy, or for that matter, they need to push data through different services. So all these are the small as a service model which is already coming, which products and platform companies are bringing in, and then MSMEs are embarking onto this very early stage. I'll not say that they are the evangelists, but yes, they are not even the laggards, and they are starting at least to do this. That's what it's happening in India per se. That's the data which is a public data available through Ministry of MSME.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much. Would anybody else also like to say something on the small scale industries?
So,
And whether they
yeah, I may just like to add something there. As he rightly mentioned, that they may not be the laggards, definitely. It's also about the awareness. So if you will see about people who are have started using Paytm, or you're using certain apps which are already there, a lot of these people who have small, medium, and in fact, it's easy for digitalization in a smaller setup than in a huge setup, right? So it's all about awareness. So once they know the importance, you will see, these SMEs really leveraging digital to its fullest. But in lots of, locations in India, in the tier 2 cities and 3 cities, it's also about the awareness, because they don't even know that there's a solution which is already available. So I think it's all about, the combination of both. But we are very hopeful, because we have seen this segment growing really fast and adopting digital far quicker than a large setup, where they need a lot of investment anyways.
So I see it also an opportunity for MSMEs, like, they don't have to reinvent the entire wheel. Like, they can leverage the learnings from their elder brothers. And, another concept of the platform-based economy, which is coming in. Like, you don't have to create everything on your own. You leverage the platforms which have been built by other bigger organizations. I just take an example of, let's say, SBI YONO application. It's a single application, is a platform where they brought together not just the banking needs, but beyond banking, they've got multiple people on their marketplace and trading, having those tradings done there. So me as an MSME, I don't need to reinvent everything. I don't have to create my own platform. I go and leverage those platforms. In addition, also, like, it also depends what is the usage you want to have, for your, from the digital technologies perspective. Is it more for the internal enablement function? Is it for my go-to-market strategy? Is it going to be for my marketing, for example? And you have like multiple platforms now available. You leverage them to do marketing on your behalf. So you can kick off your digital campaigns from those platforms. So I don't need to invest for myself, like, in everything what I want to do. And I will leverage the expertise and the availability of various other platforms in the economy today.
Thank you, Dr. Seema. We will quickly take the last question, and this is open to all the panelists. It has been perceived that by 2021, more than 1/3 of desired skill set of most occupations will be comprised of skills that are yet not considered crucial today. As we see nanotechnology, 3D printing, AI, robotics, and genetics building on amplifying one another. So what is your take on this? I think Mr. Sandeep has highlighted a bit about soft skills in this part. So I would like to hear from the panelists that what is your take on this part?
Anyone want to take, or should I go ahead?
Anybody?
If my sense is this, again, I link this with the operating model, because this is the emerging bionics, which I say in technology term. And all these technologies which you talk about, this is primarily a part of the operating model. Why? Because it's linked to the change management and change behavior. We need to adopt, and we need to really see that the value is coming out of that. Definitely for next couple of years, be it 2020 or 2021, I'm not the right person to predict this. But definitely the global data which I was sharing in terms of the millennial thinking and the new behavioral thinking, this is definitely going to act on top of that. So there are data points which tells that next couple of years, at least by 2025, the new bionic thinkings will come, and the people would be more digital savvy. So when I say digital savvy, does not necessarily means that you use Facebook and you become digital savvy. It's basically the ways of working. So whether I study, whether I do business, whether I interact, how do I leverage technology which gives you efficiency, which can be in dollar value, which can be in qualitative value, anything. So that's going to definitely happen, and that's going to reshape the world. That's what the analyst also talks about.
Okay, thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, we come to the end of this great webinar. It is well accumulated and by together by the eminent panelists and by my panelist co-colleague from Amity and by the other members. We could say that digital transformation is really about a root or any branch reimagining about the value proposition or a business model. Rather, it is about transforming the core using digital tools and discovering and capturing new opportunities enabled by digital. The keys to success have been focused on customer needs, organizational flexibility, respect for incremental change, and awareness that the new set skills and the new norms are adaptive with human engineering. Not just being mechanic, but human should be the best interface. Very well spoken that integrating soft skills, survival for the smartism, and learning by failure, and improving this can only bring an emergent change. So with this, I would like to conclude. It is not the strongest of the species that will survive, not the most intelligent that person will survive, but the one who is adaptive to change is going to survive in the turbulent time. So the time has come to thank all the eminent panelists, and special thank to Chavi for bringing such luminaries live on the dais, because it is really a commendable job to get the industry mentors who are very busy to bring them live on such sessions. And on behalf of all the students, faculty members, all senior management people, on behalf of my colleague, panelist, Dr. Seema, Mr. Gaurav Bhatnagar, Anuj, our greatest IT support team, I extend a great thank you to all the eminent panelists, Mr. Feroz, Sandeep, and to Ms. Shweta for coming and sparing their valuable thought. It was a pleasure
Thank
to
you.
have you on the board today. Thank you so much.